Didn't I promise you, son? Well, here we are in beautiful Spain, and there isn't a cloud in the sky. During the Renaissance, the famous painter Velázquez created in oil paint on canvas the beautiful skies of Spain, and the world knows them today as the Velázqueños, or those beautiful skies of Spain with little white puffy clouds. We're starting our tour in one of the city's most special areas. This is called Catalonia Square, and it's actually the nerve center for the city, because it is from this place that all of the avenues and streets radiate out into the old and the new city. If you look around, you can see beautiful fountains and sculptured gardens, and there's lots and lots of people out enjoying the sunshine and the pigeons, which come when you drop food to them.
The Port of Barcelona is probably one of the most important in the Mediterranean, and I wish I could show it to you more closely, but the officials say that camera crews aren't allowed in. So to get this gorgeous view, we climbed into a cable car that travels slowly across the port. From here we can see all the ocean liners that come to Barcelona from countries throughout the world. Look closely, and you see a monument built to honor Christopher Columbus, with a statue of the famous navigator on top, pointing westward towards America. They say this is the tallest one ever to be built. You see also a replica of the Santa Maria, one of Columbus's ships, and also a view of the square surrounding the harbor, and up into the hills of Barcelona itself. This is the Cathedral of Barcelona, and in Spain it is probably the best example of Gothic architecture anywhere. The facade is filled with ornate decorations, and the steeples or spires actually reach up to heaven. Inside, the cloister is open, and you can look up to the sky. There's a small pool where white ducks swim in the summertime, and the tomb of Santa Lucia exists there too. So religious parishioners can come from all over to worship. This is the old section of Barcelona called the Gothic Quarter. It covers the area between the cathedral and the town hall. Now, history has it that it was here that King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella received Christopher Columbus on his return trip from America. All around this area are shops displaying antiques that are in harmony with the place, which sell books, engravings, furniture, and ceramics. We were even lucky enough to find this fair. You know, it's little open-air markets like this that make Europe so popular. And here, under the canopies, they're selling honey and spices, fresh herbs and sauces in cans that they've stirred up at home. And all this is happening in back of the cathedral that we just saw. The Ramblas is without any doubt the most popular and most cosmopolitan street in Barcelona, and a pure delight for the passerby, with its flower shops, bird sellers, which are typical of Spain. The atmosphere bustles with a colorful air until the early hours of the morning, where visitors sit at outside cafes and sip coffee and special Spanish liqueurs. Street musicians like these entertain for a few pesetas to eager crowds, playing traditional Spanish guitar and singing the songs that have been handed down for generations.
Para que tú lo bailes, son, son, para tu casamiento, son, son, para que tú lo bailes, son, son, para tu casamiento, son, son, para que tú lo bailes, son, son, para tu casamiento. Quiero mandar en tu persona como mando de un timito. todas corazones por un solo camino. Puedo casarme contigo, tener un niño marinero, al compás de mi guitarra llorarás con alegría, para que tú lo bailes, para que tú le sarmiento, para que tú lo bailes, para que tú le sarmiento.
We can't come to the city of Barcelona without coming out to the ocean too. These beaches of the Mediterranean Sea stretch up and down the coastline of Spain for hundreds of miles. And sun worshippers like me come from all over the world to bask in this glorious sunshine. Because Barcelona is a coastal city, it has assimilated the different foods from all of the cultures that have passed through this region. And so we're going to go back into the city, into the old part of Barcelona, and find a restaurant that specializes in one of the region's finest cookings, zarzuela, which is a seafood mixed with champagne and stirred on an open flame. The restaurant that I chose for you today is called Los Caracoles, which means the snail, and they specialize in seafood dishes. So here in this rustic kitchen, we're going to prepare the dish that I told you about on the beach, zarzuelas, which is a seafood dish with white fish and wine, and we're going to use a specialty, champagne. We start out with two large mild white fish of any kind. You can use cod or sole if you want, and these are these two. And these two little critters in the middle that are trying to get away are lobsters. We have mussels, clams, squid, prawns, which are a kind of fish, shrimp, regular shrimp that we're all familiar with, and crayfish. Also into this dish we're going to add butter, onion, and garlic, and of course the champagne. Well, so let's begin now. I think the lobster are getting restless.
Okay.
You know, we showed you all the ingredients, but he now has to portion it off because this dish that we're going to prepare today serves 4 people. Now, one thing that gives this dish some flavor is to use 2 different kinds of fish. So he's cutting into the second one, and what he does is leave the skin and the scales and the bone on the fish, and it all goes into the pot on the stove. Each of the pieces of fish is dusted lightly with flour because it's going to brown on the stove. You know, I told him we were going to cook our meal on an open fire, and I meant it. There's a pit here that he's spooning coals into, and then he puts a steel ring on top to create the stove top. In a pan that's been heating on the stove with a little bit of olive oil, he places the fish that's been lightly floured. All the pieces are put in, and this is going to be allowed to brown for about 5 minutes. And then around this he arranges all of the seafood, which browns too. All this gets thrown on. The garlic and the onion that he showed you earlier, he's minced up and then crushed, and he now spoons about 4 tablespoons on top of the cooked seafood. Smells great. You know, it's the use of garlic and olive oil that's a must. It's the base for all Spanish cooking. And into that you can add wine or tomatoes or something else, but the garlic and the olive oil are what do it. Now we're going to make the sauce on top of the seafood, and he's going to start by pouring in the champagne. If you don't want to use champagne, you can use any good white wine. Because remember, with fish you always want white wine. Woo! Have your fire extinguisher ready in your kitchen, because when you pour the wine on, it's going to flame up like this. We're using Catalonia champagne, which is a specialty in Spain. Then the seafood cooks for about another 15 minutes on the flame, and he's told me there's something special that he's going to add on top. Here it is. Tomato sauce, which gives it the authentic Spanish taste. It's about a half a cup of tomato paste from a can. Now it's put into an oven that's been heating at about 300 degrees, and it's cooked for 15 minutes until it's ready to be served. And look at the rustic oven that he uses. You know, the dish is traditionally eaten with a crusty white bread then at the table. "15 to 20 minutes have passed, and now it's ready." Isn't that beautiful? We left Barcelona, and here we are in Madrid. Madrid was made the capital of Spain in 1606 when King Philip III reigned. Oh, Madrid, with its bullfighters and its flamenco dancers, those gypsies that swirl and twirl to the music and play their castanets. What a romantic city it is. What we're going to do is see the new city and contrast it with the old city where we are now. We're here in the Plaza Mayor, where the mayor's palace was, and this whole open square was filled with people that came to celebrate festivals that the mayor had in his honor. Tour of the old city wouldn't be complete without coming to this street that is lined up and down with little specialty restaurants. Now, we know that when you travel to a foreign country, you want to sample some of the native cooking of that country. And so what we're going to do is walk up and down and look at the outside signs of some of these darling little restaurants. And there's one that I've heard about that really has some special cooking. And so we'll sneak into there afterwards and see if we can have something to eat. You know, the street outside is just lined with people waiting to get in these little specialty restaurants. This one is very popular because it serves a traditional dish from Madrid called paella, which if we are lucky, we can sneak back into the kitchen later and watch one of the cooks preparing. When you come to a restaurant like this and you're going to eat a dinner, before you begin your meal, it's appropriate to start with an aperitif wine, which is served in a traditional punch bowl like this, a big wooden bowl, and you stand at the counter like I'm doing and eat these delicious little appetizers. Now, these are crispy fried fish, and you eat them whole, and all sorts of other spicy little nibbly things you eat on toothpicks. This man is cranking the handle that plays a little wooden player piano. I told you we'd try to sneak back into the kitchen and catch the cook making something. Well, I just caught him before he's going to start preparing paella for 6 people. Now, he speaks only Spanish and I speak only English, so he's agreed to let me explain to you what the ingredients are. You start out with your herbs and vegetables. Crushed garlic, about a tablespoon, and 2 large bay leaves. About a half a cup of minced onions. About 3/4 of a cup of green and red peppers diced up fine. And a full cup of fresh tomatoes that are diced. Okay, move over here then to the meat. He has about 1/4 pound of veal and pork that have been diced either by yourself or by your butcher. And about a half a cup of chicken cut up very fine, and it leaves the skins on. Then we move to the interesting part, the seafood. Now let's see if I can do this right. He has about 15 mussels, which are in the shell, the mussel inside. And then he has 6 baby lobsters, 6 butterfly shrimp, 6 regular shrimp, and 6 crayfish. See if you can find this at the seafood market. Now, the most important thing is then the rice, and this is a special Spanish blend of rice. It's different than the kind that you're used to buying, so go to a special shop or look for it in your regular supermarkets. It's small. It's like a wheat kernel. It's small and not as long as regular rice. Also, canned peas, about 1 can, and green beans. So here's how it all begins. He has about 1/4 cup of olive oil in this very hot pan, and I think you're going to have to find a large skillet or 2 skillets if you're cooking for 6 people. Now watch what he does. He adds all of the diced ingredients, the garlic, the bay leaf, the onions, the green peppers that were cut up. They're just sauteing slowly in the oil. And he told me that he holds the tomatoes back for last. Oh, it smells fantastic. They're just browning lightly in the oil. This is great. Can you see all the bright colors in the food that he's cooking? The bright reds, yellows, greens, oranges. You know that he's using good natural vegetables. You know, one very important thing to remember is take your time while you're cooking these vegetables now in the oil, because it's this slow cooking that's later going to flavor your paella dish. And it's this that gives the typical color and flavor to all of Spanish cooking. Now you take the meat, the veal, the pork, and the chicken, and spoon it into the cooked vegetables. The flame is about at a medium height, and you may think it's too hot, but you need this hot temperature to cook the meat. He's going to start browning it slowly in the vegetable mixture. Oh, this looks great. Just toss it lightly to get the sides of the chicken and the pork and veal coated with the vegetable sauce that you've prepared. Now, after the chicken has been browning for about 7 minutes, we add the rice. He spoons it carefully on top, and he's making the pattern of a cross. Because if you know something about Spain, you know that there are many, many Catholics in this country. Right on top, dry, prepared, onto the chicken mixture. And it's stirred right into your brown chicken. And now a special seasoning is added. It's the saffron. This, you see the vibrant yellow color? This is mainly for coloring and not for the flavor that it adds to the food. See now what he's doing? This is the water that's going to cook your rice. I asked him, I said, this water looks so dirty and cloudy, what are you using? He explained to me that the seafood that you saw earlier that we're going to use in the dish, he rinsed the seafood in the water, which gives it its cloudy color, and this also flavors the dish. Stir it carefully to make sure nothing is sticking, because this is going to cook now for about a half an hour on a medium flame. You know, if you're like me, sometimes you don't want to have meat every night of the week, and so what you can do is prepare this dish without the veal and without the pork, or without the chicken too, just using seafoods. It makes a good vegetarian meal. Once the water has come to a boil, it's time to add our next ingredients, the seafood. Now he's explained to me that these seafoods and mussels are really ornamentation for the dish. So if you don't have all of the fun little stuff that's here, that's okay. He arranges it in a star pattern around the dish. The small lobsters first. You can be creative here and just do what you want to. He's creating like a flower pattern, and I think at the end, those are the crayfish. And use those little mussels or shellfish that you have and decorate the outside ring of your dish. If you calculate right, you could have one of each for your 6 guests. After you've arranged everything in your pan, you let it steam and cook for about 5 more minutes, and then our paella is ready to eat. Before we go to the table, I want you to look around this kitchen for a minute. You see that? It's a brick oven. That's where they do all of their cooking, and it's stoked with wood. And if you don't know what that is hanging next to the oven, it's a real pig that's been killed, and it's a very Mediterranean Latin tradition to hang the meat for the day like this by its feet by the oven. His brother just got cooked. Come on, let's go eat now.
Salud. Salud.
While we're waiting for the waiter to bring our dinner from the kitchen, I have with us the director of Catalonia Champagne, and I have a few questions to ask him. You know,
Please do.
it seemed to me, and excuse my naivete, but I thought that champagne only comes from the Champagne region in France.
You are completely right. And not only from France, but a small area in the northeast of France, 25,000 hectares. And if you are only 10 kilometers further, it is no longer a Champagne. So we are at 1,200 kilometers, and we cannot name it Champagne.
Well, what do you call it then?
Cava. Cava is the legal word in Spain to designate the sparkling wine made by the Champagne method.
Well, does your cava differ from the champagne that we've tasted in France?
Yes, it is exactly the same process, but we have different grapes. In France, traditionally, they have the Pinot and the Chardonnay. And I have some slides to show you. We have this grape imported 2,000 years ago by the Phoenicians. This one is the Macabeo. We have the Charello, we have the Parillada, the white one, and one black one named Morastain.
You know, you've said that you're a big winery, and I'm curious about the size of your production.
Yes, we are the largest in the world. Guess how many bottles we can have in our cellars?
Okay, you said you're big, so I don't know, 25, maybe 30 million?
Far, far more.
Yeah?
100 million bottles.
100 million? That is huge.
100 million. Perhaps 110 in November or 90 in February, but we have 100 million in average.
You know, with a winery that's that size, you must have a solid tradition, a family that goes along
Yes,
with it.
yes, it is a family affair. It was a Codogno making wine in the same place when Christopher Columbus first settled in America.
So maybe Christopher Columbus had some of this Codogno champagne on his boat when he went to America.
It is perfectly possible.
I'm interested in the gardens around your winery, and could you tell me what this beautiful big tree symbolizes?
That is an oak. It is very seldom in Catalonia such large an oak, but it is a symbol of the family. It has been planted more or less in 1550 and still alive.
It's a huge oak tree. When you go inside, then there's some special rooms you have. Isn't there a large dining hall? Or?
Oh yes, we have transformed a former cellar into a beautiful dining room when we have celebrated the first centenary of the first bottle of sparkling wine made in France.
Just beautiful.
It was in 1972.
And what is
that
this?
is a national monument. It has been classified by royal decree in 1976. It is a museum now.
I'm interested in just the size of your vineyards. They're so beautiful.
We have large vineyard, but we buy also the grapes from all the small vine growers around our
So you don't
cellar.
grow all of the grapes yourself?
No, by far. Perhaps 10% is ours and 90% is bought from 2,700 wine growers.
So
We press 1 million kilo a day during 7 weeks. So you imagine?
And then this slide shows the wine fermenting in the oak casks.
This is oak cask, yes.
And then this is the remuage process.
Yes, after a long stay in the cellar, we have the remuage for
And it looks like here they're turned by hand.
turned by hand on the pupitre, and the sediments go slowly to the.
And then the disgorging, of course, where the sediment is removed.
Yes, you know about this process.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And then they're shipped all over the world, bottled and capped.
Oh yes,
And can you tell me then, are there different sizes and qualities of wines too?
yes. The majority is in the standard bottle of 75 centiliter, but we have also the half bottle and the quarter.
And there's a little one. What is it called?
The little one is Benjamin.
The little Benjamin.
Benjamin, the little of the family.
Well, I hope you can stay with us and eat the dinner. The waiter's just about to bring
I
it.
shall be delighted. Huh?
Paris, j'habitais 10 années à Paris, j'habitais 14 années en Allemagne. Et moi, je ne peux pas vivre.
realize that Spanish cooking would have so much seafood in it. But it's no wonder, because so much of Spain is on the coastline, and so the seafood is accessible from the Mediterranean.
Escucha niña, este pasa calle, he dedicado a tu belleza más, porque la chica más guapa del barrio, la más bonita de la localidad, bajo la noche callada y serena, la reggaetona te viene a cantar, los estudiantes que somos en la bolsa, en esta noche te venimos a cantar.
You've enjoyed our show. I have enjoyed Barcelona incredibly. It's such a beautiful city.